Welcome back to the Dr. Mary Travelbest Guide podcast. A few weeks ago, I returned from a 90-day journey around the world, and I'm excited to connect with fellow travelers and share my experiences. Let's get started. I'm going to talk about Machu Picchu today, and I want to ask you something. Are there any tips to help me avoid being cheated or robbed while traveling? Well, that was a question you asked me. So if you have some better answers, I'd love to hear them. But my advice is that yes, you can do some things like removing expensive jewelry and not carrying expensive purses or wearing expensive shoes. So don't look like a target. Look like you belong. Try not to stand out of the crowd, but blend in. Now, another thing you can do is if you don't want to be cheated or robbed, check some reviews of places where you're going, like an Airbnb, or if you're doing a car rental, check and see what the reviews are. Don't walk alone at night in the dark as much as possible, and try to beat the odds whenever you go out. Put them in your favor, not the criminals. And now let's talk about how to build that confidence. And one of the places where you can find deeper dives into safety and security is in the 5 Steps to Solo Travel guide that you'll find on Amazon. Now, today's special destination, Machu Picchu, Peru. I finally got there. Yes, after so many years of wanting to visit, and it was a good time. So I hope the same goes for you. Peru is a wonderful place, but you do need to be prepared. And I was. You know, it's almost always a good time to book your ticket to Machu Picchu. So book it now if you're planning it. There is a daily cap of 5,600 people. And once you get there, it will be too late to reserve a ticket. Now, you could get lucky, so if you were in an emergency, maybe you could get one from a ticket broker, but it probably would cost a lot extra. I delayed my purchase for a few weeks, and I'm glad I finally booked it at least 3 months in advance. The tickets are not expensive, but it could be a challenge to pay for them. I had a travel agency, but they wouldn't accept my credit card, and it was very challenging for me to set up a Western Union money transfer. That was a terrible experience. I'll share that later on. So a few things about Machu Picchu tips and insights. I mentioned buying your tickets now. So tickets usually open up in mid-December for the following year. Now, your train that you're going to take is going to be a nice, easy ride for you, but try to sit on the left-hand side so you can get the best river views on the way there. Now, if you're going to take a bus up there, there's a round-trip ticket that you can get at the kiosk the night before, and the first buses start rolling around 5:30 a.m. Yes, it's a 25-minute ride up the hill. I've got a link in the notes for you to buy that bus ticket. Now, you should aim for like the 9 to 10 a.m. slot where you're going to get good light, but I had a 1 p.m. slot, and actually that was better because at 9 to 10 a.m. it was foggy. So my ticket was a better choice than that early morning. You can also do some short hikes in the neighborhood if you like, and you can make sure that you don't bring food inside the park. You will be able to use the restroom before you go in. You can also stay an extra night in the town. It's called Aguas Calientes. That's the town where Machu Picchu is. And I had a good day exploring it. I got to walk around the city, and it was raining, but I had lots of layers, so all worked out good. But one of the things I did, even though it was raining, is I found a hot springs. And I didn't have my bathing suit with me, but I was able to rent one. And it was really inexpensive. So I'm going to give you a few things that you should pack. I didn't pack the bathing suit, but definitely you need to have your passport and print out your tickets and layers I mentioned, and a refillable water bottle, DEET sunblock, and if you feel comfortable to use walking poles, go ahead, and then some cash for snacks. It's not really great if you are impaired physically, you've really got to have a good health time because you're up about 2,400 meters. Now, it's actually better than Cusco, but you'll definitely feel the stairs. So hydrate often. And then if you have struggled with altitude, make sure you are prepared for that. I had some over-the-counter medication and I used it. I put it behind my ears and also they told me to put it on my belly button. So I did that too. And I didn't get sick, but be careful if you have any concerns about that. Make sure you talk to your doctor. Some things about being solo is that, it's going to be okay, but do use your best judgment. I'm going to talk a little bit about beautiful Peru. It was hard for me to use Western Union, but basically I ended up paying for the entire trip in credit card once I got to Cusco. So I will talk a little bit about my one-day experience and starting and finishing in Cusco. So I woke up at 3 a.m., I was ready at 3:30, and I got picked up at 4 a.m. And there were people that were coming into my hostel while I was sitting waiting in the lobby because they had been having a big party the night before. So maybe it's a party city, but for me, I had a good night's sleep. I took the bus from Cusco to Ollantaytambo, and then I took the train to Aguas Calientes, and that's the Machu Picchu Pueblo. And then when you get to town, it was around 8:30 in the morning after you figured out all the way to get there. It was raining a little bit, but again, I mentioned that I had a bathing suit and I got the towel. I was able to relax in the hot springs. And then I met Eduardo. He was my English-speaking guide, and he lives locally. I treated him to tea before we even got started, and that was a chance for me to dry out and for he and I to talk about what the experience was going to be like. And it was really nice. So around noon, we lined up. We got the tour after we went up on the bus. Again, we went to the bathroom beforehand, but it was a perfectly sunny day. I ended up with 48 flights of stairs and about 6.5 miles of walking that day. After the hike, I did get a massage in town. It was really nice. And I remember having a nice chocolate bar. That made it feel really good after a long, but so valued day. So some of the things that I did see was I went and visited the church, the Virgin del Carmen, said some prayers. I also visited the police station. It was all very close. The town was pretty small. On the trip in Machu Picchu, I saw 5 llamas, including one that was only 3 days old. It was nursing, and its mother was right nearby. It was so adorable. There was even a 3-month-old one there too. So the scenery itself was grand. It was beautiful. It was really so meaningful. It almost reminded me a little bit of some national parks in the United States, except no trees, right? Open, terraced mountains. My photos turned out to be great. And yes, I was able to check off another wonder of the world. So I think that Machu and Picchu, if you want to define those, Machu means old and Picchu means mountain. Okay? And some of the things I learned were how the Incas worshipped, how they lived, how they ate, how they farmed, their burial practices. In fact, they found a lot of women's skeletons. Yeah, that's right. Women's skeletons more than men's. A little bit of the Inca history. It was back in the 15th and 16th centuries that these Andes were populated. And this was stone architecture and terraced agriculture, but they didn't have iron and it didn't have wheels. So it was hidden in the mountains for centuries. And because of its location, it was preserved until the 20th century. This mountain range, I think you'll find, was hidden similar to the Angkor Wat in Cambodia. So a few things that I wanted to highlight were that having tea with my guide beforehand and the hot spring soak, as well as the massage afterward, really made a difference. And the missteps and the lessons learned were that Western Union was not a good way to send cash for just a one-time transfer. Now, if you're doing it all the time, that's probably different. But for me, I spent a couple of hours and risking what I felt was a lot of personal information just to try to set up an account online. And then I ended up in several stores that I thought would have a Western Union money transfer. Overall, an awful experience. So don't try it unless you already have an account. But I was able to pay for everything in Cusco, and it was very reasonable. So talking about Machu Picchu, I hope you get there. An early start. It bloomed into a perfectly paced day. It was rain, it was sun, it was hot springs, it was high terraces. There was some guided insight, some baby llamas, lots of stairs, and a peaceful sense of awe among the Incas' old mountain. Thanks so much for listening.
What's on your travel bucket list? Tell the doctor and her team of women who travel the world seeking the very best. Dr. Travelbest, that is.